Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Mrinal Gupta, the coordinator of eCell at SSCCM, extend my warm welcome to the August gathering to put the concerted efforts for developing and nurturing the entrepreneurial culture in the college and for providing the talented young minds a platform to concretize their enterprising idea. Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management has set up eCell in the college. For this, the college has already entered into an MOU with Incubation Center of IIT Roper, naming IIT Roper Technology Business Incubator Foundation for the guidance and mentorship for the students. The basic objective of this MOU is to foster the entrepreneurship in the state of Punjab by jointly working towards facilitating those young minds who have exhibited strong entrepreneurial interest by providing them with an opportunity to further hone up their skills and ideas for mutual benefit. The IIT Ropar and Shri Aurobindo College of Commerce and Management, Ludhiana, has agreed to explore the possibility of engaging and collaborating by partnering in innovation and entrepreneurship driven opportunities and resources, promoting collaboration in the field of mutual interest such as technology and innovation, partnering to facilitate and handhold these startups by ensuring the availability of networking opportunities via events and workshops. So, under the flagship of eCell, the college has started with the activities of inviting the entrepreneurs who have spurned their family traditional business and have successfully established a new venture for the interaction with the cell members. The college is also going to actually conduct idea pitching sessions with institutes of repute, and moreover we will be sending the cell members to the other institutions for participation in various contests. And now in the coming phase, the infrastructure which is actually required for developing and executing the business ideas will be created. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are very fortunate as we are having an opportunity to listen to the prized, far-sighted, and visionary thought of the learned resource persons for the day. So, today we have with us Professor Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar, who was an ex-advisor to UN Chancellor Emeritus Uganda, Mr. Prem Ojha, who is Group CEO, Fastway Transmissions Private Limited and NetPlus Broadband Services Private Limited, we have with us Mr. Aman Sharma, who is the Managing Director of ITFT Education Group India, and we have Mr. S.K. Sharma, who is the Principal Consultant, SKS Avenues. And I'm sure that our students will definitely get tips for exploring the uncharted and unmapped areas. So we are gratified to you, sir, for gracing the day with your presence. Now I request Mr. Ashray Jain, who is a student of BCom third semester and active member of eCell, to proceed with the event. Over to you, Ashray.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, my warm morning wishes to the Principal SSCCM, Dr. Ajay Sharma, Professor Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar, Mr. Prem Ojha, Mr. Aman Sharma, Mr. S.K. Sharma, respected members of faculty, and all my mates. I, Ashwajan, welcome you all on behalf of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Cell of SSCCM to this session on digital age innovation. Let me acquaint you all with the speakers for today. We have amongst us Professor Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar. He is qualified with BE Honours ENC, BE Industrial Engineering, PGDIT HIFT, MBA PhD Pondicherry, PhD USA, and PhD Uganda. Chancellor Emeritus, he has been a member governing body MHRD, ex-Vice Chancellor International University of Health Sciences, ex-advisor to the United Nations, ex-advisor and professor at National Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, ex-faculty University of Bahrain, founder director World Development Foundation, co-founder World Energy Forum New York USA, and last but not least, Indian Higher Educational Quality Assessment and Accreditation expert. Then we have Mr. Prem Ojha, Group CEO at Fastway Transmissions Private Limited. He has also been the Chief Executive Officer of NetPlus Broadband, Chief Operating Officer at Videocon Telecommunications Limited, Regional Head North for Tata Communications Limited, and Deputy General Manager at HFCL Infotel Limited. Then we have Mr. Aman Sharma, Managing Director with 11 years of management experience, especially in education of underprivileged students. He has done Bachelor's in Business Administration and Master's in International Finance. He is currently working as Managing Director with ITFT Education Group. He has also worked with Subway Restaurant, London, UK, GECIS, GE Capital International Services, and Times Music Retail. Then we have Dr. S.K. Sharma. He is qualified with PhD, MBA Marketing and HR, and MA Honors School Economics. He has worked for more than 35 years in entrepreneurship development and counseling, enterprise planning, launching and management, manpower recruitment, teaching and imparting trainings for career building and career promotion. Further, he has held the positions of Head of Placement Cell and Program Coordinator of Master's Degree in Entrepreneurship and Family Business of GGD College Chandigarh for more than 11 years. Also acted as senior consultant with the leading industry consultancy promoted by IDBI, IFCI, ICICI, and SBI, etc. for the promotion of industry sector. Conducted various research studies, organized training programs, taught and coordinated the various undergraduate and postgraduate programs run by Punjab University Chandigarh and Jammu University. On behalf of the college, I welcome you all once again. Firstly, Dr. Chandrasekhar will address us, followed by Mr. Ojha, then Mr. Aman Sharma, and then Mr. S.K. Sharma. At the end, we will have the Q&A. So may I now request Professor Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar to please start his address.
Thank you. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Good morning. I am so happy to meet up with my colleagues.
Kindly unmute yourself.
From the college, from the industries, and also my student friends. I'm happy to be here and to talk about the innovation in digital age. Now, the majority of the participants in this today's webinar are students and aspiring to come
So you are not audible.
I'm not audible. How is it now? Can you hear me?
Sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, all right. So what I was trying to tell is that all of you, majority of you are looking for, post-education
Still
life.
no voice.
No voice? Is it coming through? Am I hearing? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are clearly audible.
Is it that for some I'm audible, some it is not? Hello?
Hanji, sir. Yes, sir.
You can hear me? Can I keep this as a standard setting and then go ahead?
Yes, sir. You can go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. Okay. So my interest is definitely to tell you about what are the ideas that I have about innovation in the digital age. Now let us understand innovation means changing things, disrupting, like the Professor Clayton Christensen of Harvard Business School, who said everything is going to be disrupted. This was not now, decades ago he told. And all the management consulting companies like Arthur D. Digital, then McKinsey or Capgemini, they have been following that same trend. The thread has been one of the most interesting thing for everybody. Now, how it is affecting you as students, that's what here we are going to be talking about for 10 minutes. Innovation could be in anything and everything. Fortunately, you are young people and you are going to face the craze and the need for innovation in everything that is happening within you, in the institution, in the employment opportunities, and also in the general world when we are going to enter back. So the digital age especially puts a lot of new things on the plate as tools. For instance, we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are talking about virtual realities, we are talking about IoTs, the buzzwords which are floating around all around. And so you are adapting. Tracing back some history, you would have seen from the kind of cars that we used to have, from the kind of phones that we used to engage, from the kind of TVs which we were getting used to. Now things have changed. And this change will continue because of something else, not of your making, not of our making. basically because the open systems which has brought in the Linux has enabled a lot of people to contribute in terms of crowd activity. So the transformation has been quite fast, and so obviously what is happening, that is hitting the employers so hard that they also have to change. Many giants have collapsed. Companies like General Electric have disappeared. Companies like Radio Corporation of America is gone. Companies like Ford and Chrysler are being continuously challenged by new technology, innovated companies like Tesla. So the question here is that how, as budding graduates, how are you going to face, how are you going to take advantage of it? Unfortunately, we educators, me included, I largely worked in the government systems. Our thinking has been a little bit fossilized. So when we talk about giving accreditation to a fine college like Aurobindo, we use the yardsticks what we devised ages ago. And it is not possible to be sticking to that. Even MIT, the mighty MIT, has changed. Now they are talking about practical courses like computer software courses like Python and things like that. When you learn, then they are willing to give you certain credits for those knowledge. So they are in fact saying that you have done active courses like that, you can even be admitted directly to the secondary of a course. So whereas here it is not possible. Still we are talking about the way the curriculum was set, the way pedagogy is set, and some of the overzealous people have been going back in history for thousands of years, and they say we have done it like that, we are the first university. I think it is highly irrelevant. We need to understand what is needed. So it has affected the innovations in digital age, has affected students, teachers like me, and also the employers. So what I think the digital age, because of the so many tools that they have brought in, and it has affected every field that one can think about in education, in R&D, in the way the courses are taught, the pedagogy has changed. Then you have many changes. Even the teachers have to upgrade themselves. Teachers have to be the examples of lifelong learning themselves. Then only they are in a position to give the things that the students will be requiring. So students should be in a position to look for courses that are offered by colleges like Aurobindo within the system that is already there. If it is not there, they should look out elsewhere as well, additionally, to learn along with this. Because still when that system is changing from degree oriented to practice oriented, you are the very important group of people who have to understand, who have to also to collect a practical experience. Along with the way in which 3 or 4 years you are spending in the college, you should be in a position to assimilate such knowledges. And you should see that the digital age is affecting, and digital age is affecting us in every way that it can. So you will have to customize yourself, for which you have to have a clear knowledge about what is the industry that really requires. It's not like 15, 20 years ago in Bangalore, but that's where I'm coming from. We used to have every graduate walking into a software company, and then the software companies themselves have given the transformative education. For 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, they were retraining them. What they were really looking at is the basic qualifications and their ability to handle mathematics and then analytical techniques and things like that. And they were grading, whether you're a civil engineer, whether you are a BSc or a BCom, whatever it is, if they find you can be molded, they were taking, and they were putting additional money and resources into that. But now they have come to a stage, not for their own reasons. Like even today, Infosys has a 5,000 seated training institution in Mysore, but they have come to a situation where these courses are being learned, self-learned by people like you. Only thing is you have to continuously know what is really required, why it is required. For instance, if you are structured and in your mindset, and if you are clearing computer programming part 1, computer programming part 2, then financial analysis in your BCom, and you are going for reading a balance sheet, but the whole thing is to be looked at from a digital age perspective. So you have to have the idea about the software that is being given. in our times, we used to talk about Tally, again produced by a Bangalore gentleman, Goenka, and it was supposed to be one of the best software available for writing your books of accounts. But today that has changed. Even very big corporations are doing. And then the crowd sourcing of information has made it so fast that the employers are also taking it granted. When you are going out for a job, employer is going to ask, hello, you are so and so, what have you got? You can say, look, I'm a big degree holder, like me, for instance. I have 3 PhDs, I have 2 MBAs and 2 engineering degrees. But that is not what they want. They want me to answer the query. Yes, I have worked on this particular problem in a similar company like yours, and these are the software and tools that I know fully well, and I can show you what I can do for you. You know, the whole thing is going into a practice mode rather than theory mode. And it is no more going to be getting the marks. It is going to be really what you are good at, how you are conceptually clear, and how you are in a position to do it and solve the issues. Because the employer is also in a different situation. He has to reduce costs. He has to make things available fast. And on top of it, he has to deal with coronavirus. So if he was to try and expand himself, if he were to look for newer opportunities, what is going to happen? He has to look for people who can deliver, who can be part of the whole story. So that means, are you one of those? That is a question you will have to ask. How practical skilled I am, and how I am going to solve the problems in my employer's situation, how I am going to create a new market, how I am going to bring the business incomes as well as big profits. So that is what is happening all over the world, and everybody is understanding. Unfortunately, the digital age is coming sooner than what we thought, and for good reasons. For instance, even you would have faced in the corona times, education institutions are definitely gearing up in order to provide online education, online examinations, online discussions. Even this is impossible earlier. We used to go personally there and then stay there for 2 days and then make a meeting for a limited period of time. And now everything is gone. It's all on virtual mode. So this is what it is. I believe the innovation in every aspect of our life, and the most important for you as student is that in every aspect of your understanding, learning, and then looking for jobs, and then preparing yourselves with actual cases, actual situations, rather than just thinking about theories and then going. And before I go, I wanted to tell you, phenomenal amount of information is available in Google or in the internet. So you can tap and then get all of that. But the point I'm trying to make is, in our times, going to a library has been a virtue. If a good student is there, he has to be sitting only in the library. That was the situation, because you'll have to find factors, you'll have to figure out, and you'll have to amalgamate so many discussions. That was supposed to be the situation. But today, at your fingertips, even in your smartphone, most of the times my children, my sons, both of them, before even I ask a question, they have the answer, because they're all dependent on Google. Within seconds they can find. So that is what is impacting us in the way we think, in the way we work, the way we are going to get our jobs. And then I believe the entire market, the job market for you guys, is going to be expanding very, very rapidly. The building of talents for carpentry or iron making, those things are going to be constant. It's not going to be expanding. Whereas in this, it is going to be expanding. So if you are smart, you will look for the changing situation with respect to digital age, and then you will innovate, and then you will get very good jobs. I'm sure about that. Today, whether you are in Ludhiana or in Lucknow or in London, it doesn't make a difference. You are there, as long as you know how to be there. That's what I want to tell you people, and I'm here for the rest of the webinar. Any questions? I'll be very happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insights. We shall have the Q&A at the end, sir. So may I please, may I now request Mr. Prem Oozha to please start his interaction.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You are.
yes, sir.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. I think today we are talking about one of the most powerful ideas or most powerful thoughts of human race, that is innovation. We all know that the nature of the nature is to evolve. So every moment we all are evolving, and with all the years of evolution, we have today reached the stage of what we call digital era. Now, the biggest catalyst for this, evolution has been innovation. Through innovation, the pace of this evolution has changed from time to time. And if we look back, let's say from the Bronze Age or the Iron Age to Industrial Age to Machine Age to Atomic Age to Space Era or Space Age, and then Information Age a few decades back, and today in Digital Age or Digital Era. So I think what has happened in between these ages or the eras is that so many innovations have happened. Now, let's say if we recall some of them, so before the industrial, era, I think the wheels, invention of wheels and so many other, important landmark inventions happened. Vaccinations came into existence at that time. If we look at, let's say, space era, so before that, the aeroplanes and all came into existence, and that's how the space era came into existence. Invention of PC was the precursor to the information era. So we have seen that existence of internet has actually brought us to the present digital era. So I think all these eras have had many powerful and meaningful disruptive in nature innovations which have been fueling this progress. If we typically look at our life, so I think it's a wheel with three important cogs in it. One cog is where we are using or using a technology or doing a practice. The other cog is we are innovating, we are trying to find a new one, and then it is followed by adapting. Once we have found it, we start adapting it, and then when the adaptation stage gets over, then usage, and then again a innovation. So it's an ongoing cycle which has been happening and which has been driving the humanity for millions of years, and it will continue to happen that way. But digital era innovation is very different from whatever we had so far. I think this is where things get more exciting. If I talk about innovation in digital era, we are 10x faster in terms of any innovation in digital era than we were in any of the eras in past. We are, I would say, 100 times more efficient. So if there were 100 efforts made on some innovation, only one would come through in past. Today the hit rate is very, very high. Why it is high? I'll come to that. It is extremely cost effective. Today innovation is very, very cost effective and very efficient. It is very inclusive today. So that is another big plus that we have. The innovation doesn't benefit only a select few or a few countries, or and then slowly it takes maybe 50 to 70 years for everyone to take the advantage of it, since the world is connected today. So these benefits are for the larger community across the globe, and they are very disruptive and path breaking in nature. So I think with these 5 very strong incentives, innovation in digital era is a very different thing from whatever we have seen in past. Now, what are the drivers of this? Important to look at the drivers. Why is it that it is so fast? Why is it that it is so efficient? Why is it that success rate is so high? Why is it that it is affecting a larger community? I think there are 7, 8 important drivers to the whole innovation cycle in the digital era.
Correct.
The first and the foremost is the big data or advanced analytics. Now, in past
क्यों
to
पैसा
get access
कितनी
to
है
data,
कैसे क्यों मत
कुछ लाभ नहीं गया
मेरे को वीडियो बनानी है मुझे व्लॉगिंग
Okay, some crosstalk, I guess. So,
Premji, kindly unmute again. Uh,
Mr. Ojha, sir, we are not able to hear you. Sorry.
Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
I am already unmuted. Okay. Am I
Yes, sir.
audible?
You are audible, Mr. Prem Ojha now. You're audible, Ji. Please carry on, sir.
So I was talking about the drivers of innovation in the digital era, and I think one of the biggest drivers today, or the biggest levers of innovation is big data or advanced data analytics. Now today we have fortunate data across the globe. The past data, the present data, and even we can extrapolate and look at the future possibilities or probabilities. And with big data and advanced data analytics, we can comfortably integrate it. We can analyze, and we can also get very meaningful interpretation of the data. So this is one big lever as far as driving innovation is concerned. The other very important thing is cognitive or self-learning systems or bots. We all know of bots today. Most of the banks you interact with, you actually interact with the bot. And with the continuous usage and the kind of questions that the bot gets, there is an algorithm through which they keep improving, and their repository is made richer to answer different questions and additional questions which are frequently being asked to them. So and not just that, you've all seen the example of Alexa at your home. So earlier when we had the Alexa, I think there were maybe 100 questions that Alexa could but every day the data is getting captured, and basis the pattern, the questions that are fed into or shot at Alexa, the answers are created, and things are becoming more and more intelligent. So this is another big driver as far as innovation goes in the digital era. Virtual modeling and simulations is another very powerful tool in the digital era for innovation. Today, before you see the final thing, you can visualize it. You can see a 3D model of a bridge that may be designed, far northeast of India or anywhere. So this also gives you clarity about what would be your end product or what would be your end result of whatever things we want to do. So this is another, and it can help you do the course correction if needed. So this is another very powerful driver. If you look at the other driver, it is e-learning. Today all of us are actually a student of e-learning in one way or other, and I think we are creating a ecosystem where people with e-education are there, and therefore the possibilities of understanding or utilizing these drivers as well as innovating multiplies. It goes many folds. Other important piece that I look at is the connected devices. I think IoT is something which we all are hearing very often, and based on how many devices are connected and their usage patterns, the data that goes to and fro from these devices. I think a lot of designs, a lot of feedback. Imagine a refrigerator connected as an IoT device. Will give how many times the door is opened, how many times which shelf is used more, and all those things will be available to the manufacturers or designers, and I think they can fine tune and evolve latest products based on these inputs, which were otherwise they had to base on some sort of surveys and some questionnaires, and it was a very long term process. So similarly, if we look at augmented reality, that's another big thing which is going to be a key driver of innovation in the digital era. And collective intelligence or collective information is another very powerful thing to drive this innovation. Today, you've seen the example of COVID vaccine. Nobody would have ever thought in the history that in just about 5 to 6 months space, we would vaccine would be available, because it was a very collaborative effort. We have examples of a very famous university collaborating with a couple of leading pharmaceutical companies and then the government agencies and so on, and everything happened at such a fast pace. So I think this collaborative innovation, which was not so much so earlier, is getting wings now with in the digital era. So I think these are some of the powerful drivers for innovation in digital era, and I think this clearly makes a case of we leveraging these opportunities and going more on innovation and trying to be at it all the time. I think if I since most of young students are the audience to this session, I would say that if you look at a very simple three steps, then the first step is you are a user. The second step is you are adapting to the new innovations, and the third step is you are innovating yourself. I think all of us fall in one of these steps. So it is always very relevant to be in the step where you are innovating rather than following or trying to adapt to the technology, because that is where you are ahead of others. That is where the leaders have to be. So if you as young entrepreneurs or young professionals, build a habit of innovating, you will always be ahead of others all across your career or in your businesses. And similarly, an organization which is innovating will always be ahead of others. You've seen, some of the organizations are the first one to launch a new product or a new service and always continue to gain more market leadership. Similarly, nations, again, the same story. If the nation has a DNA of innovation, then I think they are bound to lead. And those who are following or using these innovations are always behind. So my message would be that focus on innovation, and it's with such possibilities and so many drivers in the digital era, it is very easy to visualize and accomplish and adopt these innovation practices. I think with this, I would like to conclude my talk. And if there are any questions, I would love to take up at the fag end of the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your enriching words. I would request all the participants to please keep your questions noted. We will have the Q&A round at the end. I'm mentioning that again. So please allow me to welcome Mr. Aman Sharma to please start his address. So we are not able to hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Very good morning to everybody. Wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful day ahead. I'm going to take this opportunity to first thank Dr. Ajay Sharma, Dr. Mrinal Gupta, Ashray Jain, and everybody at SSC SEM Ludhiana for inviting me here today to join with the distinguished guests, Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar ji, sir. It's an honor to be with you here and to hear your thoughts. Also to be here with Mr. Prem Ojha from Fastway, to be here with Mr. Sharma from SKS Consultancy. There are over 350 participants here today, and I'm thinking most of them are students. So I'm going to try and make this as interesting as possible for you students. If you hear each word that is going to be discussed here today, and if you're able to answer 3 questions, The first prize will be 3,000 rupees, the second prize will be 1,000 rupees, and the third prize will be 500 rupees. And I am sure that you are able to concentrate and listen to what all these distinguished guests have to say. First, I'd like to just quickly go upon what Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar has shared with us, primarily about the teachers having to upgrade themselves. The students now have access to many tools, and the teachers must also adapt and make use of those tools so they can be on the same page as the students and can connect with them better. Secondly, Sir has pointed out about the city of Bangalore and Mysore. I'd like to share Bangalore is now the largest tech hub for startups in the world. All of you students listening to this, you should be proud of your country. You should be proud of the feature that Bangalore has achieved. And Bangalore must be celebrated in every way possible. Dr. Chandrasekhar has also pointed out the self-learning, the coding, the programming, and how important it has become in the digital age, and how innovation is happening through that. The digital age coming sooner than expected. Dr. Chandrasekhar had highlighted about that. It's quite simple. My grandmother is about 86 years old. When she was practically my age, she was seeing about 100 cars on the road at that point of time. And today she sees 1 million cars on the road. Yes, the future has got a lot of surprises for us, but we have to decide whether to get surprised or be ready and prepared for that future. Moving on from there, I'd like to really thank Mr. Prem Ojha for sharing such wonderful thoughts with us. He started off by saying nature of nature is to evolve. And that is something that hits the spot. The chronology which he has explained of the ages and innovation is absolutely right. And it's about time that we realize where the world is going and where we have to go with it. Disruption and innovations are keywords which have been used by Mr. Ojha multiple times in his presentation. Innovation for masses and global solutions. Boys and girls who are attending this must realize you are not competing with 1.3 billion Indians anymore. You're competing with 7.8 billion people worldwide on how fast you can innovate and provide global solutions. Check out the example of Elon Musk. He's an icon now for the youth. He started off by innovating and making PayPal, and today he is the managing director for Tesla, for SpaceX, and now the richest man on earth. A feature which he particularly is not proud of, but yes, he's still focusing on his innovation and bringing about the change that he has visioned for this world. And not only for this world, surprisingly, he has set forth another mission for himself. He's going to be taking people from planet Earth to planet Mars and setting up a city over there, colonizing it. Wow, that's all I can say about him. Mr. Ojha also highlighted the cognitive self-learning systems, how AI and algorithms are affecting our day-to-day lives. Alexa and Siri know more about us today than probably our parents, and I can say that for a fact. Education is driving the skills development today, and we must be thankful, and we are so fortunate that our parents have been able to provide us with this quality education. So each one of you students who is currently enrolled in SACCM Ludhiana, you must count your blessings. Many people do not have access to these tools, this education, this setup, which you have got. And you have to make optimum utilization for this and start your career and innovation right now while you're studying. Do not wait for the degree to come about. You have to start this innovation, this career path right now when you're studying. In addition to that, Sir had also highlighted, Mr. Ojha, the importance of Internet of Things, the augmented reality, and how it is picking up more faster pace in the days to come. He also highlighted the 3 steps: the user, the adapting, and the innovation. That's exactly what is happening. There are a few people which believe that iPhone is a unique product and they were the early users. Then came the adapters, the masses, about 60% of them joined these 10% later on. And now it's a company which is innovating their products across the board on a daily basis. That's how fast the pace of change has become. A very, very important suggestive reading that I would like to call upon all the students and all the participants today is a book by Alvin Toffler. It's called Future Shock. If you have not read this book, ladies and gentlemen, you may not be ready for the future which is about to come about in just a few years' time. Please go and purchase a copy, a soft copy or a hard copy of Future Shock by Alvin Toffler. It may just change your world. Moving on from there, I am the managing director for ITFT Consultancy Private Limited and have been focusing on the education of particularly underprivileged children, the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes from the various parts of the country. I have helped children from Andaman and Nicobar Islands, from the far northeast, Arunachal Pradesh, from other areas like Kargil, from tribal areas of Madhya Pradesh, Jhabua, Alirajpur, places you may not even have heard of, ladies and gentlemen. But I wanted to give those students the same opportunities that yourselves and ourselves had living in a city. And I'm really glad to share with you that those students have actually made a difference and joined the mainstream economy of the country. I'll just take 2 minutes before I start my presentation to share a story of a girl called Sita. Her complete name is Sita Rosalima Apralo. She comes from a tribe in Arunachal Pradesh from a town called Roing, and her house is 2 days walk from that town. She lives in the mountains. That's where she comes from. Her village is just about 35 kilometers from the Chinese border in Arunachal Pradesh. That girl walked 2 days to get to the town and seek the admission under the post-matric scholarship scheme of the Government of India. She came to Chandigarh to study with us for 3 years. She did her graduation. She joined ITC Chola Sheraton in Chennai as a trainee. And now she went on to become a service executive with Carnival Cruises in United States of America, earning approximately 2 lakh rupees a month. If a tribal girl from the far corner of the country can do this with very few privileges, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I expect more out of you. You have got so many tools available for yourselves. If you do not make the right use of these tools, you know what? You may be missing out on some of the biggest opportunities. Employment and entrepreneurship go hand in hand. However, there is a huge change in the perception of the youth as well as the adults. Employment was a safe haven that everybody looked for earlier, but now everybody is going towards entrepreneurship because they know there is no safety even in employment. Those times have really changed. I'd like to start with my presentation now, with your permission. And yes. Today, we are going to talk about what the government is doing for promoting innovation. The Atal Innovation Mission of the Government of India by Niti Aayog. Can you see the presentation, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Ashray. So the Niti Aayog of Government of India has set up the Atal Innovation Mission. The objective of the Atal Innovation Mission is to promote culture of innovation and entrepreneurship by setting up the Atal Tinkering Labs in schools and Atal Incubation Centers in colleges and universities. The Atal Innovation Mission, which is being spearheaded by a very important person in the Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, a very versatile IS officer from the Government of India. He's taking this forward at a very, very fast pace. Atal Innovation Mission will be providing grant and aid to 20 lakh rupees each school, includes a one-time establishment cost of 10 lakh rupees and 10 lakh for operational expenses. This has already been implemented in the last few years, and many such tinkering labs have come up at the school level so that the students can start innovating right at middle school and secondary school education level, which is a huge feature. It was not there earlier in our education system. Combine that with the National Education Policy of July 2020, this is going to be a game changer, and I'm sure that the students will, who are so creative, every student that I've come across in my lifetime is so creative, that creative will be unleashed to provide solutions, global solutions, and to innovate for the world, not just for our country. The Atal Incubation Centers, they are doing wonderful. There are 3 in Karnataka, 2 in Telangana, 1 in Tamil Nadu, 1 in Kerala each. There's 1 in Delhi, 1 in Uttar Pradesh right now, and many more are being set up as we speak. They provide a grant and aid up to 10 crore rupees for a period of 5 years to cover the capital cost and operational expenditures of the incubation center. Entities such as the higher educational institutions, R&D institutes, corporate sector, alternative investments funds, which are registered with SEBI, business accelerators, group of individuals and individuals, all are eligible to apply for this grant in aid. And when we look at the new challenge which has been given by the Niti Aayog under Atal Innovation Mission, it's called the Atal New India Challenge. The basic idea is to foster the energy of the youth to provide innovative solutions in the areas like health, housing, hygiene, energy, and water, which can directly impact the livelihood of all sections of the society. And 24 challenges have been launched in partnership with 5 different ministries and departments of the central government. And I am amazed by the amount of solutions and innovation which has come about under the Atal New India Challenge. There's a Mentor of Change program, which is also underway, in which people like Mr. Prem Ojha, Dr. Raju Chandrasekhar, who've got profound experience and are able to mentor the youth. They are providing their valuable time across the tinkering labs and the incubators to tell the youth how to practically enable their design thinking, their computational thinking, and spark that innovation and entrepreneurship among those youth. And this is very important because sometimes you need somebody other than just a teacher or your professor to help you innovate and think creatively. And that's what mentors are doing right now. About co-working spaces, the concept of co-working spaces had started in the USA due to the shortage of office spaces and high rentals in big cities. And now we are experiencing the same in India. Now co-working spaces are available in all major cities across the country, tier 1, tier 2, and surprisingly, tier 3 and 4 cities are also coming up with co-working spaces. The culture of innovation is promoted through startups of different sectors working under the same roof to solve real life problems and finding solutions. There's a company called WeWork. WeWork is now the largest co-working space provider in the world, and they've tied up with the Embassy Group in India to come up with co-working spaces in tier 1 and tier 2 cities. Recently, on the 15th and 16th, I was participating in the India International Startup Summit, where the Honorable Prime Minister was the chief guest. Mr. Piyush Goyal, our Honorable Minister, was the coordinator for the whole event. And I was just really, really happy to see how seriously the government is taking the startup scenario in the country. The Prime Minister also announced 1,000 crore seed fund for the startup sector, assuring that there would be no shortage of funds for the sector, and the said center will help them raise equity through guarantees. This is a huge step in making India a self dependent country. At the same time, we are providing global solutions to global problems. This is the right step, in my opinion, towards the Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign that has been started by the Honorable Prime Minister. Uh, One interestingly, very important point that was highlighted in the Prime Minister's speech was that the country has got more than 41,000 startups, out of which more than 5,700 startups are in the IT sector. As many as 3,600 startups are operating in the health sector, and 1,700 startups are present in the agriculture sector as well. Interestingly, I was also a speaker at a co-working space here in Chandigarh called Space Jam. And while addressing, I came across a agri-tech startup. And that student, he is just 22 years old, and how he had innovated. Uh, there are a lot of machinery required for agriculture. And he had set up a IT platform where 100% optimum utilization of each and every machinery in the country can be done, especially during the harvesting time. There is a shortage of harvesters when the harvesting time for agriculture comes in. And he has basically provided a solution where one machine is able to service thousands of hectares of land by optimum utilization and time management of the same. See, a simple problem providing a simple solution, and it has a huge effect on the economy. This is what we are looking for from the youth of our country today. Like Mr. Prem Bojha had highlighted, disruption through innovation. Disruption means to provide solutions through innovation for modern day problems faced by the masses by completely challenging and disrupting the current or conventional ways of doing things. Case in point, education in the corona times. The classrooms have gone virtual, the classrooms have shifted online. Students from all walks of life are now realizing the real difference between employment and entrepreneurship, and that's going to make a huge difference. Those with innovative thinking are choosing now, mind you, they are choosing entrepreneurship as a career instead of a safe job as a heaven. I'll just like to quickly conclude. I may not, I think I have taken more time than I was supposed to. Unicorn valuations of 1 billion USD or more. These are just a few examples for the 350 plus students who are participating today. Please see the examples of Zomato, Ola, Paytm, Flipkart, Byju's, Oyo, Policy Bazaar, Big Basket, Lenskart, and Cars24, all made in India unicorns who have achieved a valuation of 1 billion USD or more. Out of this, Byju's, which is an ed tech startup, is now currently valued at more than $10 billion. You can imagine what it is going to do in the future and how far it can go from here. I thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And thanks once again to all the team at SACCM for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and vision with the students and with all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this knowledge and all that you did about the Atal mission. May I now request Dr. S.K. Sharma, please start the interaction.
Worthy speakers, Professor Raju Chandrasekhar, Mr. Prem Oja, and Mr. Aman Sharma, faculty and colleagues, and students. Let me first of all extend my thanks to the management and principal of SCCM College, Ludhiana, for giving me the opportunity to have a session with the students. So, well, friends, when we are talking about students who are just to graduate, so for them, it's very important that few concepts they must get to understand, the important decisions they have to make in their life while doing graduation or after graduation. They were just thinking of what to do after graduation. After graduation, graduates have tons of opportunities, career options. They can join corporate sector, or they can conduct research, meaning joining higher education, PhDs and all, and become an entrepreneur. So there are ample employment and self-employment and higher education opportunities everywhere. So it is up to them to decide, to determine, as per their interest based, they can choose their career. So I'll be discussing one of the careers which they can choose is basically starting their own enterprise industry startups. After graduating, they can go ahead with setting up their own maybe small venture, maybe servicing based venture, or maybe some startups. I'm saying this because the success of many graduates, entrepreneurs in the recent years, for the last 5-10 years, it is observed that many graduation people have started their own small ventures and they were very successful. So after seeing their success stories, so one can also choose to start entrepreneurial journey after graduating. So why I'm saying that? Because when we start our own venture, first of all, it provides an opportunity to enter into a process which leads to realization of an individual's passion for innovation and development. Definitely. And findings have also found that some research study have shown that small enterprises have been the origin of many radical innovations. So definitely it is through innovation and technology inputs that modern technology can be introduced in the small scale sector, and thereby a new cost effectiveness and sophistication can be brought about in the products manufactured in the small sector. So now coming to the digital age. So in this digital age, innovation carries different meanings and impact, touching various aspects of organizational operations and development strategy. There are three main areas where the nature of innovation has been changed as a result of direct impact on the digital revolution. One is R&D. Second is product and process innovation. And third is business model innovation. So this is the direct impact of digitalization on innovation. The indirect process is also there. In addition to that, digital technology has had an indirect impact on the market structure and competitive environment, changing the incentives of incumbents to innovate. So what are those indirect impact? That is increased market size and then a reduced barrier to entry. Earlier, there's a strong barrier to entry for any business but here with the digitization in the digital age, the barriers to entry has reduced to a large extent, and acquisition and leverage of the knowledge of consumer preferences. What consumer wants, so we get that. Let's discuss one by one these tools. So first is powerful R&D tools, research and development tools. R&D is one of the most important units of any organization, and in past, only large corporations could afford maintaining costly research efforts. Only big and large organizations, they are having their R&D. Rather, medium and MSMEs, basically, they are not being able to afford R&D. In many times, it is seen that testing labs are again provided by the government. In one industrial estate where the people go there along with their product and they are being tested there. So basically, they are not having the testing R&D labs and testing labs. So it was because it is a very costly matter, costly affair. So powerful tools have been developed to decrease cost of previously unaffordable research activities for business across industries. They allow more accurate inference based on larger amount of data and enable more extensive long distance research collaborations, including crowdsourcing. Moreover, modern tools enable near costless type of innovation that require little or no R&D effort. Example, including the digitization of existing products and processes, distributed manufacturing, blockchain and advertising based free services, as well as the prospect of more uberized activities in multiple sectors, including transport, banking, entertainment, and education. A multitude of data analytics tools enable cost-effective in-house processing of gathered data from product usage by the consumers. Companies offering these solutions enable business owners to see actionable insight on dashboards in order to pivot their products based on the market need and ensure successful endurance. Companies can even collect data gathered from all aspects of their operational across regions and apply advanced statistical analysis to be able to make better decisions, both for the business and for the customer satisfaction. Product and process innovations. So basically, digital technology makes possible new products. With the digital technology, we can have new products and services, and re-engineering production system give cost and quality advantages. Technology companies have developed advanced software to allow international companies to centralize standard business operations to take advantage of economies of scale, maybe in terms of human resources, accounting, payroll, and call center marketing, etc. Another is supply chain automation. Solutions allows companies to track inventory levels, process recording automatically, and match supply and demand. Internal communication in large global companies is one of the most complex part of the ecosystem that can significantly affect operational efficiency. Modern enterprise communications softwares increases team efficiency and boost opportunities for collaboration. Another is cloud computing technologies. This is a whole another topic and probably one of the greatest opportunities presented to the modern business. Not only do cloud-based services enable scalability, but they also significantly decrease costs and lower capital expenditure on IT hardware, infrastructure, software, and applications, and all provided as a service. Cloud-based services are also reported to reduce capital investment, lowering the total cost of ownership, and increasing business agility and resilience to failures. Third is business model innovations. So modern innovation of business models is originated by the tech professionals and is taken further by the business professionals that have acknowledged new opportunities. Experts suggest the key for business are the new opportunities this brings for ways of matching people to needs and of leveraging the network for decentralized information, gathering to create systems that are constantly re-optimizing themselves. They keep on working for the optimum solutions. Moreover, advanced artificial intelligence, machine learning, efficiency of deployment of such technologies allow a place for more efficient, direct, explicit learning system in the form of crowdsourcing models for innovation. The new level of connectivity that characterizes the emerging industrial landscape is also creating increasingly self-learning systems. In other words, modern businesses are learning businesses. They adjust as they go and respond to the changing market conditions, hazards, customer needs, trends by leveraging digital technologies. In the indirect way, digital technology is leading to more innovation by changing the incentives of the incumbents to innovate. This is competition-driven innovation, where innovation itself does not necessarily involve new technologies. Increasing market size. Technology acts to integrate markets by reducing communication costs and increasing matching efficiency. Thus, in turn, increases competitive pressure in national markets that comes from international players. Prior to digital revolution, international expansion has been a complex time and resource consuming endeavor for business. Modern digital business have shut to the barriers to register the company and obtain a license in the worst case. Almost without cost to a global consumer base are creating a tougher competitive environment in local market by serving as a digital tunnel for companies to cross oceans and to reach new audiences. And then second indirect impact is reducing barrier to entry. Increased market size as a benefit of digital age due to reduced barriers to the entry into new markets. Since technological advancements allow companies to operate globally even while being physically located in one country. It increases competition for local companies that did not achieve that stage of technological improvement. In addition, technological innovation is quickly adaptable and allow business to jump to another level of efficiency and experience. Innovation spreads quickly due to its technological nature, making it easier and faster for business to build products, adjust them, and jump over national fences. So, well, friends, thank you very much. And any queries, we'll have a query session. So, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your enlightening words. So, mates, we are now open for question and answer round. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box.
Students can also unmute themselves and ask the query.
Okay, so if anybody has any doubt, you may unmute yourself. There is a question who asks how to develop an innovative mindset. Anybody may answer.
What is the question?
The question is how to develop an innovative mindset.
Oh, Very good. I think this is a very good, question, I would say. And this is the biggest limitation or the reason why not so many innovators are around. The first thing that we all need to manage is to manage our mind. And, to create an innovative mind, we need to train our mind to challenge whatever is there today. Always try and apply ourselves as to, is there a better way to do the same thing? Is there a shorter way or more efficient way to do the same thing? If these 2 3 questions we push to any scenario in our mind, in our life, I think we will build that habit of innovating. We will keep challenging our current practices, and we'll always be exploring or looking at new ways to do it. This is how innovators work. Sometime back, we all were only used to going to banks and doing all the banking transactions. Today, none of us, visit our bankers. We do it from our phones. So somebody would have thought that since there is a device and it is there with virtually everyone, and it is connected through the internet to, all the banking servers. So this could be used as one way. I'm talking about a big innovation. But similarly, in our workplace, in our homes, people do some frugal innovation just by challenging the current trends, and always looking for more efficient and fast and cost effective ways of doing things. So I think that leads to innovation. It's a practice. It's not something which will happen one day. Mind has to be trained to explore new things, more efficient things.
Till the time other questions are coming, one question I would like to ask is that, do startups play a major role in digital innovation or the big corporate? Who has a bigger role to play?
Should I take this or somebody else wants to? I'll quickly give you my viewpoint, and then I think it can be added, built upon. See, innovators or the startups have no legacy. They are small in size, and they are, I would say, 90%, 95% innovation based. Large organizations have their own legacies. They have a huge size. They have a lot of resources, but they are not nimble footed. They take time to do it. So I would say, the work of the catalyst can be done very well by the startups, and the larger organizations, if they get onto this bandwagon of innovation, can actually create a mass impact, is a large impact. So both of them need to be innovative. But I think the likelihood of innovation is much faster with startups, because for them that is the only incentive that they have got. They ride on these innovations to grow in size.
Chandrasekhar.
Yeah. Can you hear me, all of you?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to escalate this into a slightly different plane. Yes, there is a concept that the startups are very innovative, and their very introduction and survival depends on their innovative practices. Absolutely correct. But I would also give this perspective as to how big companies also can be innovative. Because I'm always talking about jobs for the students. I'm not too worried about the entrepreneurship and all that. It takes time. But in this case, if you're looking at companies, larger companies, they also have to reinvent themselves. They have to innovate. They have to be, available when the people want it. Tatas have done it over and over again. In their portfolio of companies, or even in the companies itself, they have changed. So everybody today, because innovation is a buzzword, everybody is looking at person who is wanting to join as a young person in a company, whether he is innovative, whether he has got the innovative mindset. Before I go, I just wanted to throw light on one company which I love so much. It's a company called 3M from Minnesota. Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. Please, all of you who are interested in understanding what innovation is about, how it happens in bigger companies, please look up their website, and then you would understand over a period They have got more than 150,000 inventions in their kitty, which really means the R&D department, that productionizing department, that prototyping department, everything has to work very innovatively. And each of these products are not ordinary products. They are earth-shaking products. For instance, we are so used to post-it pads. That to bring that product, they have done research for about 6 years, and then they made a product which stays for maybe 60, 70 years. I started using it when I was a student. Now I'm old man. I'm still using post-it pads. That is from 3M. So innovation, whether it is a small company, startup, or a big company, it has become the common thread. We just can't ignore it. And if you are going to be innovative, you will succeed as a startup. You will succeed as a finance executive, you will succeed as a finance manager, or you will succeed as a managing director of a large company. Innovation is the base on which it can be built up. So there are companies which have been innovating all the while. Deccan Airlines came, innovated from the very, very ordinary standard airline scenario. Indigo innovated, and they said we need no frills transport. Now, transport itself is being innovated by Elon Musk, which is the richest man in the whole world. And people are there. He has got 50,000 employees who are working. And suddenly he says, I want to remove all the cars. I want to remove airlines. I want to remove railways. I'll go underground. I'll go into this tube business. So people are at all levels. People are driving innovation. Setting up a Mars colony is an innovation, because he says at sometimes it is going to happen. I am going to be spearheading. A managing director or owner of a company, when he is trying to do that, you can imagine he is going to depend on all people who are coming out of colleges like Aurobindo. So innovation is to be internalized, very vital. And whether you are going to be an entrepreneur, whether you want to look for jobs, you have to look for it in yourselves. That's what I want to tell. Thank you.
So another question that we have is, please throw some light, give your views on agricultural startups combined with fintech.
Yeah, there are very basic sectors like agriculture, which have been continuously been reinvented because of various reasons. And companies like ITC have taken this fintech into the local village setting also earlier by bringing those mandis into locals. And they were trying very hard. Unfortunately, in the beginning, they were not successful. I think again they are coming back. But in the case of if there is a very specific point, I'll be very glad to take that question off this forum. I have a lot of information which I can share with them, and continuously it is happening. And you know what? I can give you examples of great success of fintech in agriculture sector in Africa. Every day they are developing, because for them it is very essential. For us, we have reached industrialized nation status, and we are talking about our software, we are talking about artificial intelligence. But they are talking about how to improve my production, how to predict my rain situation, how to make the best use of the pricing mechanisms, and can I export from Zimbabwe to UK? Can I export asparagus from Lesotho to USA? These are the questions. And those questions really open our eyes. If there is a specific person who is interested in this, please send your queries to Professor Sharma, Ajay Sharma, and he will redirect. We can interact, and I have a lot of information that I can share with you. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Another question that is there in the chat box is, according to you, what are the main factors for development of an innovative startup? Anybody can answer. Aman sir.
I think if other persons are not wanting to take this, I will definitely take it. Yeah, Aman is back. I think he should. He himself is a very innovative man. Please answer, Aman. Go ahead.
Apart from all the other qualities and virtues that may be required, the one thing that I would like to highlight through personal experiences also is perseverance, 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 determination, determination, determination. That is the only thing that will help you take and propel your idea forward into a practical solution which is going to be implemented. The steps can be put up on a piece of paper, right from ideating to design thinking to developing a prototype and so on and so forth. But the one key ingredient, the magic masala, if I may put it, is perseverance. You are going to be facing daunting problems, challenges, but that mindset, which Mr. Prem Ojha sir had also highlighted, which Dr. Chandrasekhar sir has also highlighted, developing that mindset like a army commando, that you are not going to give up. You are going to get through this. You are going to make it happen. That determination, that perseverance, that mindset is the key to developing a startup in my point of view. But I would be happy if Dr. Chandrasekhar could add to that.
Yeah, in fact, there are many examples how people have persevered. And one very good example is the founder of the life history of founder of WhatsApp. And this is a guy, I can give a link to a video to Professor Sharma. Later he can forward it to all the people. It's available in the YouTube. But I'm very specially impressed by this gentleman. He worked, first he went to Facebook for a job. He was rejected by Mark Zuckerberg. Then he went to Yahoo, and fortunately Yahoo took him and then stayed for a while. And then he came out, and then along with the Yahoo colleagues, he started this WhatsApp. And then, believe me, where he was rejected, he was with this idea, great idea, and he pushed and pushed and pushed. Now today, you know, the effect of WhatsApp, everybody is in WhatsApp. WhatsApp, whatever it does, is affecting us. And this guy sold it for several billions of dollars to Mark Zuckerberg, same company, several billions of dollars, because he knew his target. He wants to go behind it. And he is one of the largest philanthropists in terms of donations. I think about 40% of his entire wealth he has donated out, himself and his wife, of course. But still he is a billionaire. I think he is still valued as a billionaire. And more importantly, once he has finished his work in the profit sector, now he has moved to a very interesting sector, which again we are all jumping into. Is a company called Signal. Amazing company. And without any all add-ons, and people have messed up WhatsApp, here it is pure and simple. You can go ahead and then do it. So when we have option to change, immediately everybody is changing to Signal. This is the guy who did it. So he has been pursuing that there should be a medium of communication between various people as long as they want to. And they should be in a position to exchange files and then communication, have a group call, and so many positive features. This is a man. So he knew that's what he wants to move. And so perseverance, that's a key word. That's what I want to really explain. So the students today, they have different attitude. But fortunately, because of this competition and because of this digital age, they are pulling up very, very fast. Let me tell you one interesting example. I was teaching at the Bangalore University for the management department. I found one guy very constantly abstaining classes. One day I somehow sent word and then got him and then fired him in front of all the 59 participants. And I said, you are such a bloke who has never attended my class, but how come you are writing good examination and scoring high marks from myself? I said, I just can't believe me how you are doing this. He said, sir, I am doing very important thing. I am writing a book on software for students. and that is why I'm not in a position to come. But I take your notes, I call my friends and ask what you have done in the class, and I internalize. I work overtime. I don't sleep most of the days. He was telling. I was so happy to listen to a student like that, you know. But while he was a student, he was writing a book on software because he felt the notes and things, whatever has been done by other teachers, were not up to the mark. He said, it has to be like this. And then it became a big success. People are buying those books, but they never knew he wrote it when he was a student, you know. That's what the pursuit and perseverance is very, very important. Whether you are working for big companies, whether you are in government of India, whether you are handling Niti Aayog, wherever you have to be pursuing your goal, and you should know very clearly what will really be helpful, not only for yourself, your family, for everybody. That is what is the whole point. So I support Aman's point about perseverance. We have to have perseverance.
I think S.K. Sharma can add something. Please.
Yeah, basically, I was listening all these things. You know, when we are talking about startups, or maybe for any venture or project. So first important thing which I feel is one must have a strong desire to go ahead. Inclination, you know, people are having thinking only. That desire or strong desire must be there, will to do. And then the startups have a process. So process is like conceptualization should be there, planning should be there, proper implementation should be there, and management. So these are very important integrated. So what is happening in conceptualization stage only, people get trapped basically. They go for somebody has done it, let's do this. And will, you know, as we say, innovation continuum is there. That continuum comprises of, say, followers, and then there are experts, and then ultimately the leaders are there for the innovator. And when people are in the initial stages, they are basically beginners. For beginners, basically it's very difficult. It's very difficult. In fact, disruptions or innovations, whatever it may. So what we are thinking of, the conceptualization is very, very important to go ahead with a start. So conceptualization, basically, it is just like our projects, our startups could be sick before they are born, before they are startup, and entrepreneur doesn't know. He started with a incipient sickness is there, and after 2-3 years, he could find out here where I stand. Maybe, as Professor Chandrasekhar has said, there may be 1 or 2 persons are there who have clicked with the idea and coined their ideas and earned a lot of money and become billionaire or millionaire. But as we see, this conceptual stage, you know, 60 to 70% units rather, they are born sick because due to they are not following the criteria. They are not going ahead with the demand supply gap. They are not technology related. They are not locations, maybe one, or maybe other infrastructure required for me. So basically what I say, taking a decision, one must have a strong desire and will to go ahead with setting up a startup. One. Second is, it is not a blind. It is basically, it's a conceptualization of the startup, which is very important. I tell you, most of the startups, even with OYO and other, you know, they have raised funds from many foreign institutions and banks. And due to COVID situation and maybe other situations, and prior to that also, I get to learn that they are not able to repay back. You know, though they have taken that interest loan at 2 to 3%, 3 to 6%. In India, the basically interest rate is very high, but in other countries where they can get the loan for 2% or 3%, and they have taken such a quantum of loan and started with a strategy that giving subsidies, discounts to the consumers. You know, the room suppose OYO, room is of 3,000 rupees, they are offering it for 1,500. And that is just to earn more and more clientage. But ultimately, they'll end up in a big problem. So this is what I'm saying. The conceptualization depends on project to project and ultimately their implementation. Many a times, venture capitalists and angel financiers, they also come forward. Once they have pushed by angel financiers, have given you some money, but once it's really start implementation, start growing, then you need venture capitalists to come forward, and there they don't agree. In Maharashtra, most of the units, startups, they face cash problems. Though operations are going on, but they don't have the money to pay to the employees. And as far as the account books are saying, they are very healthy, very this thing. So what I feel like, it's a very ticklish question. Answer could be given from individual to individual. We cannot generalize this. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I think next question is for Prem Ujha, sir. It is like many broadbands are coming up with combined OTT apps and Wi-Fi at the same platform. So how does your organization go about innovation? Repeat the question.
Prem Ojha, sir, we are not able to hear you clearly.
Yeah. Say that again, please. Sorry, I missed out.
Yeah. So he says that how do you go about innovation in your organization today, as many broadbands are coming up with combined OTT apps and Wi-Fi at the same platform?
Yeah. I think this is something which is a very close question to me, in a way that I am pursuing my PhD program, and the topic is customer expectation from a bundled telecom service. So that's something besides. But otherwise, most of the organization in the telecom sector today are working towards converged triple play services. So voice, video, and data, all three services bundled in one, and then that is the way it will be sold in future by all the organizations. So since we were initially a video company, we built up a broadband and a voice service, and now we are bundling, and our offering in today is a bundle of 999, where you get voice, you also get video, and you also get data services. And in addition, in times to come, security services and other security services will also ride on this broadband pipe. And so all the new technologies and other developments will be a part of value-added services in addition to this triple play thing. Now, as far as our organization is concerned, we have already gone through this process, and we've already developed, and we are already serving customers. But there are a lot of new value-added services which are yet to come into existence, such as video conferencing solution, which we are in our beta stage of testing. Then there is antivirus and parental control solution. We are giving some sort of value-added services, but there's a more advanced thing which we are trying out, and they will come. For us, innovation is a compulsion rather than a choice. So, to remain relevant, we are market leaders in the broadband space. We are market leaders in video services in the state, and to continue to retain that position, we need to innovate. So we've kept a separate group, innovation cell, and then a project manager whose work, he is not a part of any operations or any of the existing work, and he's continuously looking at how is our service pegged with the other competitors. So if there is a new thing somebody else is trying to do, we also want to do that. But more importantly, we are a lot of vendors and a lot of other people tell us what new things they are developing and how it is synergic to our service. So that is another way we are doing it. Like we have done a couple of initiatives very recently. One is a tie-up with Facebook where we are doing outdoor public Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi's. So we are getting strategic places such as all the important malls and public places, parks, railway stations, bus stand. We will be giving free internet service there, and the monetization will happen through advertisements and sale of coupon beyond a personal limit of internet usage. Similarly, we have developed another product which is your home broadband. Suppose you are you have a restaurant and there is a broadband connection at the restaurant. So somebody who is walking in can get free internet in that restaurant sitting there, because today before the menu people are keen to know whether Wi-Fi is working there or not. So we are giving that service, and the advantage to the restaurant owner is that his menu is available through the Wi-Fi to their mobile phones, or his day's offer or delicacy for the day is also available there. He is also capturing the database of the visitors who came in. So and if it's a birthday party, he also knows which day is his birthday. So all this data is being captured, which will be utilized to enhance business and also generate customer delight by giving free internet. So these are some of the things that we are doing. We are also looking at another innovation, which will be Wi-Fi roaming. So for instance, a customer who is Net Plus broadband user at his home, he goes to another friend and he incidentally is also a Net Plus user. So without using a friend's account, from his own account, he can access internet, and his account will be charged or debited accordingly. So this is another facility, and this can happen even at a Wi-Fi hotspot that Net Plus has created in the city. So I think a lot of innovations and all have to happen in our space. It is happening at the fastest possible pace, and we therefore have people continuously looking at new possibilities and catching up to that. Another learning for me personally has been that whatever has happened in West a couple of years back, I think that clearly becomes a checklist for us to work on, and wherever we find relevance to our market, we immediately go ahead with that. We know what has been accepted in US 10 months back or 8 months back is bound to be here in India very time soon. So anytime soon. So that's how we do it. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. Ma'am, are you good to take another question?
I think one or two questions we can take, Ashray.
Okay, ma'am. We shall quickly do that then.
Fine.
One question is how artificial intelligence is a threat?
I can take up that question if you want,
Yeah,
sir.
please. Go ahead.
I think a lot of students have been watching sci-fi films and considering artificial intelligence a threat right away. May I humbly remind you that artificial intelligence has been there for the past 2 decades, and it has certainly contributed to the development of economies and to innovation, rather than be challenging us in threatening ways. Also, while I was a student of Dr. Ajay Sharma sir, I had pretty much figured out that privacy is a myth. There is nothing known as privacy if you understand technology the way Mr. Prem Ojha understands it, the backbone of it. Privacy is a myth. Today we are hearing news about WhatsApp having different privacy settings. Let me assure all our participants, privacy has been a myth for the last 2 decades almost. There are intelligence systems which have been laid out by the National Security Agency of the United States of America way back in the last century, which have got access to all critical data worldwide. And if you are a fan, whoever has asked this question, if you are a fan of sci-fi films, may I humbly suggest to watch a film called Snowden, which will give you an insight into what is really going on in terms of data sharing and data access. Uh, Edward Snowden was an employee of the National Security Agency and formerly working for CIA. He was initially an ethical hacker and is now in asylum in Russia. But he had very clearly said that under the Patriot Act of the United States of America, access to all private information was given to the government, for security purposes. So let me assure you, artificial intelligence is not a threat. The films that we see are still films. They are not really a threat at this stage. But yes, we never know about the future, so we could be very cautious, and a lot of risk mitigation can take place to make sure artificial intelligence does not become a threat in the future.
I think we shall take up one last question and I shall combine a couple of them. We shall have a word from all of you, I guess. It is written that being an undergrad student and with no business background, how can I start earning myself digitally right now without waiting for completing the degree? So, what is one piece of practical advice you would give to someone starting out?
I think this is a very, very important question because all of us have children. All of them have studied or studying, and they have graduated out. And particularly in a setting like India, there are not many avenues. In fact, if you divert your mind into earning something while you are learning, that's going to be difficult. But my single suggestion is, supposing you are doing BCom and you are trying to learn your financial management and accounting and things like that, become an assistant in the office of a chartered accountant, or look at GST, which is really a draconian activity in India because it is having all kinds of powers. So you can go and join as a practitioner or as an intern in any one of those companies in which you are likely to get a future employment. Now, what happens is this. When I was studying, I used to go, there was no compulsion, but I was used to go to industries. I was an engineer to begin with. So every year, it was a 5-year engineering course. So 5 full years, every 2 months of that holiday period, I was sitting in a company learning how they are doing, why they are doing. So when I came out with my degree, I was one of the most prepared guys at that time. I'm talking about 45, 50 years ago, to say that, look, I have my degree, I have my practical experience in these companies at these levels and these offices. They loved it. They said, yeah, this is a guy we want. You are ready-made for us. So here also, if you are not going to open your own company, your own startup, best is to go and serve as an intern. Forget about payments. That's not your idea. You will have to learn the job, and then you can tell and you can innovate and you can say how costs can be cut and products may be made better or profits can be earned. That is what is my suggestion. And all students can definitely apply this theory. And if you want to get into hotel management or restaurant industry, daytime you are studying, evening you go and become a bearer in a hotel. There's nothing wrong with that. If you see it as, oh, I am a very rich man's son, I come in Mercedes Benz to Aurobindo College, set aside those things. If you want to say that, look, I earned, I am doing this, you have to have that pride in yourselves. And you can become intern in any target company, anytime. And that's how it is. And then whether the payment, they may not be very interested to give you payments because they don't know who you are and what is the kind of thing that you can do for them. So his risk and your risk, but still you will make definitely something out of it. Perhaps seeing your interest and entrepreneurship, they will engage you, employ you. So this is what I would like to suggest. I'm sure Aman has a better idea about this.
Sir, thanks for your encouraging words. Yes, I do have a take on this through personal experience. 20 years ago, in the December of 2000, I was in first year of my undergrad program, and I started working for Planet M, which was a music retail unit of the Times Group. And at that time, if some of you remember, the millennials who are the participants here today, CDs and cassettes were sold and music was on them. आपने तो शायद मिलेनियल्स ने सीडीज और कैसेट्स यूज नहीं करी होंगी, क्योंकि आपके लिए सब कुछ फोन पे अवेलेबल है. बट यस, उस टाइम पे सीडीज और कैसेट्स बिकती थी, एंड आई वाज वर्किंग फॉर देम, and it was an entry level job. I was on the international music floor, and I used to make 4,600 rupees per month by working about 7 hours a day, apart from my education. And that's where I understood the concept of earn and learn. You must earn and learn right from the age of 15, 16, 17, whenever you can start. Look at the culture in United States and in Europe. When you are 15 years old, you have to start earning your own pocket money. If you do not work somewhere during a summer job or elsewhere, then you have to start doing chores, that is works at home, taking the garbage out, cleaning the car, cleaning the driveway, etc. Picking up the snow, taking the dogs out for the neighbors. You have to innovate at that young age in the West and become self-reliant and independent. Unfortunately, in our culture, even till the age of 30, is like mera raja beta, mera raja beti, you know, and that thing is not going to fly, ladies and gentlemen, in the 21st century. So you better wake up. If you are not earning and learning now, I was doing this 20 years ago. You've got more opportunities now than ever before. And do not mind what people say about you. You know, if you're working and earning your money through hard work, whether you are a Zomato delivery person, whether you are with Swiggy, whether you are with Flipkart, whether you are with Amazon, with anybody working part-time or full-time, do not be ashamed of the hard work that you put in. Because, you know, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, इसमें बीत ना जाए रहना. You have to be focused on your goal, your objective. Your determination will lead to success eventually. Those same people, you know, who used to make fun of me while I was working in college, today tell people how they know me and introduce me to their friends and say, we know Aman very well. And you know what? You have to lead through example, ladies and gentlemen. I started a startup in 2006 with an initial investment of $100,000. I sold off that particular startup last year for more than 3 million US dollars. You have to make sure your goals are very clear in front of you. It does not matter what other people think about your goals. In fact, your goals should be so big that they scare you. Otherwise, they are not good enough. So yeah, concluding on what and adding to what Dr. Chandrasekhar sir has said, please figure out a way to earn and learn. And I'm sure SACM Ludhiana will be able to help you out with an earn and learn program and find opportunities for you. If you do not want to work for somebody, then you can start working for yourself. You have the options of social media. A couple of my students in the first year and second year had got more than 40 to 50,000 followers on social media, and they were influencers, you know, who were earning money for every post that they were putting on their social media. There are hundreds of ways to earn and learn now, easier ways perhaps than there were 20 years ago. Please figure out what is best for you and start earning and learning right away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering to the queries of students. Thank you to all of you. Now I would like to request Principal Sir to formally address.
Well, I'm thankful to all the panelists today. You know, it is indeed a privilege to listen to all of you. Dr. Raju Chandrasekharan, we know each other from last 20 years and more, and Mr. Prem Oja also, Aman, my dear student, and my dear colleague, Dr. S.K. Sharma. Uh, Over a period of time, I have learned a lot from all of them. And that was my earnest desire that my students should also learn from them. You know, at college, we have started up Innovation Cell. We have also tied up with the IIT Ropar for Innovation Cell. And maybe in the beginning of the February, we are launching the company program also here, where a few companies will be there and students will be the running the company. They will be employees there. They are planning and executing. And that thing we are just going to begin. SSCCM has a long history of promoting entrepreneurship and innovation. Different activity we are conducting, like independent thinking exercise is done. And as students were asking how to change the mind, we are having Shape the Mind program also. And if you look at the idea behind the shape of the mind and this independent thinking, the thing is that we should challenge this existing setups and find out the where there is a need of improvement. We are also having British Parliament debate exercises where if we give the confidence to students that they can present and then communicate. But now, because as Mr. Aman was talking about, the entire focus of today government is on the startups and innovations. And even if the government is not having the focus, the economy, the emerging economy is for those who are in a position to innovate and those who can really convert or channelize their energies towards achieving their dreams. So this is the right time. And we believe that at initial stages, if you are in a position to make you familiar with the things, and it become easy, because this is the right time when you can decide what to do and what not to do. It's the right time when you can dream and you can take some risk. And worldwide, you must be looking at that most of the innovations in this IT areas are done by the students very early. Whether it's a case of the Facebook, it is a case of Microsoft, it is a case of Apple, or it is a case of a number of other IT companies. Even this what we called Uber, or we told about this hotel chain. These are all initially done. So it is not the age actually; it is now the mindset. And I believe that today's session was certainly an eye-opening for all of us. And my entire faculty is also attending, because I was willing that innovation is not some workshop. Innovation is a something in our mindset that we should all learn, and we should all understand what is happening here and there, so that we can sit together with our students, we can plan, and certainly make a difference in the life of students. Completing a syllabi, getting a university positions, that's one thing. But really, if you want to contribute, then you have to contribute when to make impact the life of the students and the life of their families, and that's where we target. So it is. I am really thankful to all the participants. I know they are busy. They are busy in their own routines. Whether it's Professor Chandrasekharan, I know he's giving the consultants to a number of educational institutions in India and abroad. And he's having a great idea of the tourism, of the education. He's in a committee of MHRD, AICT, UGC, and a very busy person. And Mr. Prem, as you are aware of, he is sitting in a great position today, and which is very responsible position. Having a 2 hours off from for a particular session is very difficult. But I am indeed thankful to them. Aman, I know I have a right on him because he's my student. I always bother him. Looking at the profile which he is doing for the entertainment industry, for the Bollywood, for a number of other, we sometimes feel that we need to learn a lot from them. Mr. S.K. Sharma has been very kind enough. We started up a Master on Entrepreneurship and Family Business for last 10 years. We worked together. We were looking towards placements together also. Now he has started up his own consultancies. So I requested him that come here to bless the students. In future also, we'll keep bothering you. And next week, dear students, we are going to have the workshop on how to plan a company and how to execute the ideas, maybe on the next Saturday. And another similar type of session with industry will be there on the next Saturday. So next Saturday, expect a workshop on the this how to go about the entrepreneurship and what are the steps involved. And another industry interaction we'll be having the next weekend. So hopefully you all enjoyed and learned. And whatever you have to say, you can contact us. You can email to us. We are also available. Because when the students are not coming to the colleges frequently, I can't say have a face-to-face interaction with us, but we are available for all of you. Thanks, and hopefully we will continue to deliberate on the issues. And I will again request all the panelists, you keep us giving us the idea what we can do, because it is your guidance, your vision, which is going to help all of us. Thanks a lot. Madam Bernal, if you say anything else, or we can call it a day.
So I think as a coordinator of this e-cell of the college, I would once again wish to extend my gratitude to all the panelists, and especially to the students who have very patiently listened to the discourse, and they have put up very good questions. Dear students, in case you have any other question also, you can mail the questions to us, and we would then bother our panelists or the resource persons, and we'll again ask them to have a discussion with you. Fine. So thank you everyone. Thank you very much. So we can now call it a day.